And what I've bought instead is a 20-year-old Jeep. So if you've watched my other video in which I stated I'd pretty much rid myself of the materialistic psychology, you'll also remember in that video I mentioned that if there's only one thing left that I still have a desire for, it is a V8 engined car. I still can't quite explain why that is, and much of it though is based on the noise. I just love the sound of a V8. In a similar vein, and possibly a slightly controversial vein, and you'll see why in a second why I'm saying that what I have very recently decided to do was get rid of the family SUV, you might call it, the Volvo XC90. And what I've bought instead is a 20-year-old Jeep, a la this. You might be able to see. It's in pretty good condition. So you can see what I mean. Everything is easy to spot, and the engine's still running nice and smooth. I absolutely love it. Now this cost me a couple of pennies, very little, and so in a way I've made a lovely cost saving by selling the Volvo. What I've got here is a car that has been owned for the majority of its life, about 19 years, by one owner, and then it had a second owner, an engineer that had it, that was going to keep it for the rest of its life but decided to get rid of it, and it's been incredibly well looked after. So this is a Jeep Cherokee model ZJ. It comes with, and this is where it's slightly controversial, so it comes with a straight 6 4-litre engine, so not the V8. I couldn't quite justify the V8 as a runaround car, but anyway, the point being, this is my thinking. What I love is the idea that I'm taking something that is old, continuing it going, keeping it on the roads, but something that actually is not only, from what I understand, touch wood, reliable, touch the fake wood on my car. This old engine that it has apparently hasn't changed. It's an old AMC straight 6 that hasn't changed since the 60s really. And it is meant to be bulletproof. It's meant to be a great engine. And interestingly, although this is an old car with what you would assume, certainly a big literage to the XC90, but yet much less road tax, oddly. And I think because the XC90 was a diesel, this is a petrol. So, maybe I'm doing my bit there. I know this sounds ridiculous, and so therefore I know I'm not doing any further help to the environment by buying a petrol car, not significantly. But my thinking here is that rather than sending this to the scrap heap and adding more metal and battery and lots of other toxins to the land, what I'm doing here is keeping a car on the road. And I know a lot of people will say, well, that's ridiculous. You're now still polluting. Why don't you get an electric car? Well, I've thought about electric cars, and I still don't like the idea of having that huge battery underneath my bottom. Nor do I like the idea that there's still no answer yet for what's going to happen to all those batteries once they reach the end of their life. So anyway, to me, this makes sense. I love it. It's retro. A lot of people will look and think this is a piece of junk. I don't. I think it's a great car. And I love the way it bounces along. It's not refined. I now understand why when Americans pretend to be driving a car, that their hands are constantly moving when pretending to steer. And that is because, I don't know whether this is the same with all American cars. I'm probably going to get a few Americans now commenting on this. But the steering is quite wayward. So you do find yourself moving your hands like this constantly because you're sort of involuntarily adjusting the steering. But I actually like that. I love the fact that the brakes are a little bit spongy. I love the fact that, as I say, it's got this wayward steering. I love the fact that it bounces along. I love also, when you look in the engine, you can get to everything. Nothing's hidden. They even mark everything that's worthy of a service or in need of a service. They mark it in yellow. So I could do some of the servicing on the car. And I say that as a non-mechanic. So, you know, I can look in the engine and there's a filter box that all you have to do is unclip 4 clips and you can replace the air filter. The oil filter is exactly the same. The alternator is there for me to exchange if I need to. And I've got a spare alternator given to me by the former owner. So again, I know this is a somewhat confused thinking around getting rid of materialism or the materialistic psychology and also doing something for the environment. This is not me doing something for the environment. But what it is, in my mind, is keeping something that's old going, something that has character, something that can be easily upgraded if ever anything goes wrong. I can do some of the stuff myself. And it's in really good condition as well. This car really is just been incredibly well looked after. Anyway, that aside, my nice long ramble for today. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this, because in my mind, I think I'm doing the right thing. You know, I'm not going out and buying, I couldn't afford it, but I'm not going out and buying a nice super sports car, a high-end SUV Cayenne, like the sort of one that just drove past there. This is me buying an old car for pennies and trying to keep it going and enjoying its character and simplicity. So, like I say, be interesting to hear your thoughts.